Everybody hates Shy. And here's why. It's time to release the first college football playoff rankings of the season. But don't wait on the committee. Mine are better. These are true. LSU and Georgia fans will not be happy. This is always a fun time of year for me because I like to kind of predict what I think will happen and do my own rankings. So we're going to do that here together on the channel. I'm going to start from number one and work my way down and then work to those first two teams out. Number one, it's pretty simple. It's Alabama. Alabama is the top team in the country. They will be the number one seed going into the college football playoff, barring anything horrendous happening. And even if they drop a game, they're probably still getting in. But right now, it's Alabama number one. The defense isn't as good as it has been, but this is the best offense that Nick Saban has had. Tua is not perfect, although he's played perfect so far. 25 touchdowns, no interceptions. Heisman front runner for sure. Some people are talking about him like he's going to be the next great pro quarterback. Hold your horses. Geno Smith looked exactly this good this many games for the season when he was with West Virginia the year before he came out in the NFL draft. So pump your brakes on that. But Alabama front runner doesn't look like anybody can touch them right now. So the LSU game is going to be interesting. But number one is Alabama, hands down. Easy money. Number two, my number two team in the college football playoff rankings this week. My favorite people in the whole world, my favorite fan base. They love me so much. Clemson, you're the number two team in my college football playoff rankings this week. And we talked about this two-part thing. How have you looked? Who have you played? Do you deserve it? Eye test and merit. Now, merit is not your strong suit because you still haven't beaten anybody. But the eye test is really good. Let me explain why. Your team this year reminds me of Florida State's championship team when Jameis horrible person, character flaw Winston was there. Your team is not necessarily beating tough competition, but what you are doing is you are stomping the teams that you do play. And that's how you get into a playoff system like this if your schedule is weak. Now, brand recognition is starting to help Clemson. 5 years ago, Clemson was just another team. Now they are approaching big name status. That brand's going to help them. When you start beating teams by 40 and 30 and 50 points, people will overlook the fact that those teams aren't good, and they will see your greatness because great teams should beat bad teams and average teams by 30 and 40 points. And that's what Clemson is doing right now. Clemson, a firm number two of the rankings, and a firm number one in the gates of hell. And the number three team in these initial college football playoff rankings is another undefeated team. There's only three in my top four. Bama was one, Clemson was two, and number three is Notre Dame. They have beaten more ranked opponents than any other team ranked ahead of them so far. They've beaten more than Bama, and currently they've beaten more than Clemson as well. So 3 top 25 victories for Notre Dame, undefeated, and are they going to be here at the end of the season? I don't think so. They'll probably lose. This weekend is going to be scary. I think they're going to lose to Northwestern. We talked about the eye test and merit. Notre Dame checks every box for the merit side. They have beaten the best competition so far out of the top teams in the country. The eye test, I don't trust Notre Dame. Ian Book is definitely an upgrade over Brandon Wimbush, but he is an average quarterback at best. But Notre Dame has arguably the best defensive line in college football. Clemson and Notre Dame's defensive lines are the two best in the sport, and that is a unit that's going to need to play well if you get to the college football playoff. And not only that, as a Notre Dame fan, I am happy to see them in that 3 spot, in my rankings anyway, because they get to avoid Alabama. And you Clemson fans who hate me so very much for having an opinion or being black and having an opinion, I don't know. You will get to see your Clemson versus Notre Dame matchup if my playoffs started today. So here we are. We have our top 3. We have Alabama, we have Clemson, and we have Notre Dame. That leaves us with one more spot for our playoff, and then we have our first 2 teams out. So what we're going to do now, let's reveal these 3 teams all at once and talk about it. There it is. That's the trigger. Some of you are triggered right now. Michigan is my number 4 team in these initial college football playoff rankings. I'll tell you why in a second. 5th, I have LSU, and 6th, I have Ohio State. Now, let's start with Ohio State. I didn't think they were really deserving to be in the top 6 until I really sat down and looked at everything the total body of work, and I looked at the other guys who were in competition for the spot. Oklahoma, while they did lose to a ranked Texas team, I don't think Texas is very good. And you look at the rest of the Oklahoma schedule, they have struggled. They've struggled with Army. They played Iowa State very close. Oklahoma, you're back, take a seat. Edge to Ohio State in that one. And as far as Georgia got waxed by LSU, who was our number 5 team. Now, Georgia was expected, in my opinion, to take a step back this season because they lost a lot of talent. Georgia fans, don't feel bad. The future is bright. This is what your season was supposed to be this year. Realistically, you weren't going to run the table and go undefeated. You were going to have some bumps in the road, and you still have a shot to win your division if Alabama takes care of business against LSU. And then if you knock off Bama in the conference championship, you're in the playoff anyway. So don't fret, Georgia. Now, Michigan versus LSU. Michigan's one loss is to an undefeated Notre Dame team who is firmly in the college football playoffs right now. If the only team that's good enough to beat you is the number 3 team in the country, at worst the number 3 team in the country, that means you're pretty damn good. Now, LSU's one loss came to Florida, a team that we didn't think was going to be very good this year. They're surpassing expectations, maybe a little quicker than we thought with Dan Mullen. But Florida isn't a very special team this year. They're not even close to the top 6, the top 5, let alone the top 4. So Michigan's one loss is better. Now, that Georgia win, LSU, was impressive, okay? The best team you've beaten besides Georgia is Miami. Miami's not very good this year. And while Michigan's best win is probably Michigan State, which I know isn't very special, it's not Georgia, it's not sexy, it's just my gut feeling when I watch LSU. Do you trust Ed Orgeron? Because I don't. And at the beginning of the season, when I saw LSU beat Miami, I thought Joe Burrows was the truth. I thought LSU finally has his quarterback. This is going to be a special year for them. Turns out, when you look deeper, Joe Burrows ain't that special. If you look back at Danny Etling's numbers last year, he outplayed what Joe Burrows is playing right now. Plain and simple, I don't trust LSU. So I give Michigan the edge. Here's the saving grace for SEC fans. I'm not an SEC guy. I'm from Big Ten country. I think the SEC is handed way too many things that they don't earn. But if you're LSU, the rankings today don't matter for you. You beat Alabama, you're in, okay? Beat Alabama, finish strong, you're good. Same with Georgia. Win your division, win your conference, you're in. There's a scenario, if Alabama loses to LSU, it's going to be very tricky. If Alabama loses to LSU, the SEC is going to end up with 2 teams in again. It will be an LSU and Georgia rematch in the SEC title game if LSU beats Alabama, or it will be LSU in Kentucky. Alabama is getting in with one loss, period. We know the committee doesn't care if Bama loses, they're putting them in anyway. Bama can drop the rest of these damn games, the committee wouldn't care. So if LSU wins out, runs the table, they're in. If Georgia wins out, runs the table, they're in. Kentucky wins out, runs the table, they're in. We're talking 2 SEC teams, maybe an undefeated Notre Dame, maybe an undefeated Clemson, or the Big Ten champion. Or hell, if somebody stumbles up, maybe the Big 12 champion. It's going to be crazy if Bama drops a game. So who you got in your top 4? Let me know, Clemson fans. I was nice to you today, okay? I praised you. You guys deserve your spot. Many of you have left me comments to let me know that you're not all horrible people. I appreciate that. Don't forget to check out my series on why your team sucks and why they won't make the playoffs. We did Ohio State, we did Clemson. Also, if you like the shirt, you can click a link below and buy it. I have some more merch available as well. And like the video and subscribe if you're new, or don't. I don't care. I know you hate me anyway.